Buck, thanks for taking the time to speak with the National Rifle Association. Your publicist yesterday sent me a copy of Manufacturing Delusion, How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You. Now, Buck, as I read this book, I keep thinking this is the gun control movement working with the media and academia in order to propagandize and get their info out to the public in order to attempt to influence the public to vote away their freedom. I'm wondering if that was occurring to you as you were writing this book.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I went through multiple drafts of this and had to cut and cut and cut so that it was readable. And the publisher and I were going back and forth because I could have written a 1,000-page book on this. I mean, so there's a couple of different things that come together in this. One is the tactics, if you will, or the framework, the process of mind control, totalitarian mind control, which has 100-year history now, and really starting in the Soviet Union and then expanding into China and North Korea. And now you even see it in institutions in the West, meaning the same playbook of tactics, not necessarily at the same extreme level. And there's a whole, I talk about climate change, I talk about transgender stuff, and all these different issues come up in the book. But firearms, and I speak, of course, as not only an NRA member, but an NRA certified pistol instructor, and I greatly appreciate what the 2A community means for this country, and as a member of it. I'm actually going shooting this weekend, it turns out. I'll be busting out my pistols and a carbine and working on my skills. Anyway, when you talk about the gun debate in this country, in any context, you come up against, some people would call them zombie lies, but I would say they're manufactured delusions because they're very forced by a media apparatus, untruths, mistruths, flat out lies. And we can go through a couple of them, but I mean, one of them that comes to mind right away is just the notion of a gun-free zone. I mean, a gun-free zone is inherently a lie in the context of stopping crime because people, as we know, look for gun-free zones to commit heinous acts because it just means no law-abiding Second Amendment Second Amendment enjoying individual is going to be there to step in and do anything. The best example is, I lived in New York City before I moved here to the free state of Florida. And I love living down here, by the way. I'm a huge fan of being in Florida. And as I collect various NFA items and I had to get a second gun safe now, by the way. That's where I am with my wife. It went from being in New York where getting a gun was almost impossible to now I'm getting a second gun safe. But there was a sign near Times Square in New York City, and I lived right near Times Square for a while, that said gun-free zone. And there were shootings.
You put that stuff up. Yep.
Yeah, there were shootings that would happen in Times Square despite the gun-free zone sign. What a shock. As if people that are going to break a whole bunch of laws, felonies, perhaps even kill an innocent person, are going to care about the sign reminder. But it's just through sheer propaganda, sheer repetition, and going through in manufacturing delusion. I get into propaganda is really the back third, if you will, of the book. I get into how they do this, why the repetition matters, the way they control language. We see this all the time in the gun community, talking about assault rifles and talking about, machine gun bayonet, laser pistols, and all these things that they'll say that don't even make any sense, don't even exist. But it's to scare people. It's to force a phobia, which is another chapter in manufacturing delusion. So once you understand this framework, it's absolutely applicable to the biggest debates around the Second Amendment and guns in this country. So I think people really appreciate that.
I wouldn't use the word debates because it's unfortunate that it's often not a debate, especially with the mainstream media and so many in them. New York, for example, New York Times, it's not a debate with them. They're in an echo chamber and repeating a certain propaganda as you get into.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I mean, it's interesting as well. Anybody who follows the way the media covers Second Amendment issues in this country, you can be as ignorant, as foolish. I mean, there was that USA Today thing, right, with the chainsaw bayonet. And then, of course, chainsaw bayonet sold out as kind of a novelty item, and it was all funny. But they really were trying to scare people. So they had a chainsaw they were attaching to the front of a modern sporting rifle, right? You can be as ignorant as you want if you work for the New York Times on guns, as long as everything that you write and say is guns are bad. That's it. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to know the laws that already exist. You don't have to know the statistics about concealed carry holders and what that actually does, which is lower crime. It doesn't matter. as long as you are spewing at the Washington Post, at CNN, and all these places, guns equal bad. And really, let's be honest, gun owners, lawful gun owners equals bad. Gang members, prior felonies, they're a little more okay with them having guns, even though, of course, that's a huge violation of federal law. But they're always and everywhere opposed to civilian ownership of firearms. And that's all they need to know in their minds. And so the ignorance that they display is never a problem. They're not embarrassed by it. They almost think that guns are too icky for the New York Times editorial page to learn anything about guns before they will write about guns, which is not true of really any other topic the same way. It's absolutely true of guns.
What a boring life they must lead. The curiosity, just go out there and find, even go out there in pandas would be more fun and more interesting than what they do. But I'm wondering then, I mean, Manufacturing Delusion, I'm a third of the way through it. It's a fun book. It's a personal book. It's an important book. And I think it lays out the playbook for the gun control movement. But as we look forward, and as all you do in the media, do you see any hope? I mean, the legacy media has lost a lot, but can we break through what they're doing more? How do we get this message to even more people?
Yes, I actually do think so. I mean, it's a good news, bad news look ahead for the fight against propaganda, the fight against manufactured delusions. And so in Manufacturing Delusion, which I really do hope so many of my fellow NRA members will buy, because it's also, I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to sell more books this week than most, if not all, of the New York Times bestsellers. They'll probably keep me off the list just because I'm a conservative and I like guns and I like the Constitution. And so they are discriminatory against our point of view. So the more we can run up the scoreboard, the better. So I would ask everyone listening, watching, reading, please go get Manufacturing Delusion. It's on Amazon. The good news, or rather, I'll start with the bad news. The bad news is that with the proliferation of artificial intelligence and with extremely sophisticated tools of propaganda, voice, these machines that can basically replicate, voice replication machines, the ability to create video that looks more and more. It's usually you can pick out something, but this is going to be used for propaganda purposes. It already has. People will talk about deep fakes. So that's a concern, because the internet ecosystem is the information ecosystem now. Everything else is too slow. Printed newspapers that are getting out day in and day out are not going to be able to compete in a 24/7 news cycle with at least a strong presence of information online. And so that's why I think the ability to leverage technology to create lies, essentially, to create falsehoods and then back them up with false evidence, that's really concerning to me. And you see that the second biggest economy in the world and second largest country in the world too, actually, India surpassed them, but China, they have a completely information ecosystem under the control of a totalitarian regime. So this isn't like, oh, maybe in some dystopian future, this could be a thing that humanity has. It's already happening right now. It's happening in the second biggest country in the world, our biggest rival, total information dominance online. So that means we have to be aware of our First and Second Amendment rights in this country, and understand that we have to protect them with everything we can. So the good news, though, on this is that I think that it's getting harder. And I think, honestly, Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter and turning it into X, if you have one immediate and full spectrum information sharing ecosystem online that is not under the thumb of one ideology, that is not controlled by the left, it's very hard for them to stifle the truth the way they used to be able to. You're not going to have a Hunter Biden laptop situation with the way things are now. That could change, but they wouldn't be able to pull that off now the way they did in the 2020 election. So I think that we've had some breakthroughs. I think the complete collapse of the faith that the public has in the legacy news media, or the old news media, is very encouraging and long overdue. So there's some reason for optimism there as well. But I mean, it's a battle that will always continue. I mean, there's no we've won, we're done. It's constant vigilance, and people that believe in the Second Amendment certainly are not. It's not a new concept to them that we have to be constantly vigilant. And that's why Manufacturing Delusion is such an important book. And that's why I think everybody should go get a copy.
Well, I agree. I'm reading it. It's fun. It's important. As I said, it lays out the playbook for this ideology and how they propagandize it. And I agree with you on artificial intelligence. I compare Grok when I'll ask it a question to other ChatGPT and so on. And yeah, the answers are very different. What they're drawing from, how the algorithms, whatever they're written, the answers they're giving you are quite different, especially on our freedom.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. So I think that this is something that people are going to have to become increasingly used to dealing with in their day-to-day lives. This technology is being adopted right now, and it is going to massively shape perception. So the people who believe in truth have to make sure that they keep their eyes open, because it's going to get harder and harder to discern fact from fiction, and that is just the reality of the world that we live in. And also the ability to propagandize people. We carry tools that not only constantly, I'm talking about now all of our smartphones, which you pretty much have to function in America today. I know some people, I have an uncle, big NRA guy, by the way. I have an uncle who still has an old school phone because he doesn't want to deal with all this stuff. So he carries like an old school cell phone so that people can't bother. He gets text messages and calls. That's it. No internet. But I think that people are going to realize that we carry around with us propaganda tools, and also we carry around surveillance tools. We are doing self-surveillance all the time, and we're feeding information to entities that, yeah, they're using it to sell us stuff, but they have a lot of information on us. And there's a lot of ways that information may be able to be accessed and used that we're just beginning to understand now. So this is a rapidly evolving situation, but a commitment to truth and to freedom, and the ability, of course, to defend ourselves against tyranny is absolutely critical. And so that's a really an underlying theme of manufacturing delusion, the book that is out now that everyone should go get.
Right. We have to stay involved as advocates for our freedom. I wish I could opt out. I do on hunting trips sometimes, and it's just wonderful to be able to not have that phone actively on me. But we have to stay involved in this battle. So tell me, where can people find manufacturing delusion? You mentioned Amazon. Is that where you want to send people, or somewhere else?
Honestly, if so, I love supporting local bookstores just because I think that they are a nice thing to have in your community. So if you can go get it at a local bookstore, that's great. If you want to go have an excuse to go in and get a new hard copy, by all means. But if you want that convenience, I just want people to get the book, to read the book. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, really anywhere online. It's in wide release all across the country. You should be able to get it. Probably can have it delivered to your home. You can have Manufacturing Delusion delivered to your home tomorrow. So just go on Amazon, pick it out, make it happen.
Well, one last question. Did you read the audiobook? Is that out there?
The audiobook, thank you. That is an excellent question, because yes, the audiobook is in my voice. I read the whole thing. And so people who are used to hearing me on radio, for example, they will, I think, have a certain comfort level with knowing that I'm the guy doing the audiobook. Great way to do it on your way into work or on your way home or whatever, doing errands with the kids. The audiobook is, it's also a fantastic way to get your manufacturing delusion playbook and get it all set up.
Beautiful. Thank you, Buck.
Thank you.